Well, it looks like the era of Voltaire is finally upon us in the Cardano ecosystem, and it's really looking like this is going to be the really big differentiator. This is going to be the thing that sets us apart from basically all of the other large cap crypto ecosystems.
I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only one. No one likes being lied to. I can't focus. I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my.
We've been talking about Voltaire for a long time, guys. We've talked about SIP 1694. I've made videos about it. In fact, I've made multiple videos about the interworkings of how Cardano Voltaire governance was actually going to work, the different branches of government, how they'll interact with each other, how people get removed from the constitutional committee, how the DREPs will operate, how you'll delegate to DREPs, all the little tiny micro things. But the big question was always, when is this going to happen? Who's going to actually get to benefit from Voltaire? Will it be my grandkids? Will my grandkids be running around like, oh, I'm so glad my grandparents started the process of setting up Voltaire. It's finally coming to fruition in their lifetime. That is not the case. In fact, it looks like we're going to have Voltaire maybe by the end of next year. And a lot of the preparation is happening right now. So this is an actual timeline for Voltaire. We got this in the Cardano 360 for October. And this is something I think a lot of people have been waiting a long time for. So now we know this is all happening basically over the course of the next, what is it? What is it now? 15 months, at this point, almost 14 months, all of these things are supposed to happen. And I mean, come on, this is crypto and it's not necessarily pure development, but I think anything that's been built in crypto has always taken longer than everybody thought it was going to take. So wouldn't be at all surprised if we don't quite make it by this Q4 2024 timeline for a vote on the Constitution. But hey, this sounds like a great timeline to me. And even if it takes a little longer, that's fine too. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of this timeline has already been completed. So this is not just a straight line timeline. There's so much here. This is a double curve timeline. It actually does look like a roadmap. A lot of times you'll see projects talk about their roadmap and it's just like three things. This thing has two curves in it. It actually looks like a roadmap. So they're going clear back to November 2022, about a year ago, with IO Scott Fest. I think we all remember that going down. February 2023, that's this year, February of this year, they had the SIP 1694 kickoff workshop in Colorado, followed by more workshops, followed by the SIP 1694 workshop in Edinburgh in Q3 2023. Then we had the launch of Intersect and the launch of SanchoNet, which is the test net for Voltaire. Then in Q4, now we're going to this quarter, the current quarter. We are now in Q4 of 2023. We have SanchoNet becoming feature rich. Then we have the first SanchoNet wallet integrations. I think this is important. I think we all realize that people are not going to be using the Cardano command line interface. They're not going to use the CLI. They're going to want to use their wallets to vote if it's to have any kind of meaningful adoption. And that is coming, sounds like, this quarter for SanchoNet. Then you have the Gov Tool beta also coming this quarter. We're going to talk about the Gov Tool and look at some shots of that user interface in just a second. Then you've got Q4 2023 repos migrating to Intersect. This is a pretty big deal. I mean, what we're looking at here is a full transfer of, I don't want to say ownership, but ownership in the sense that they're having to be the caretakers of it. This is a full transfer of custodianship of the Cardano ecosystem from IOG to Intersect. This is kind of a crazy big milestone. I mean, obviously we've also got the CF in the mix, but I'm going backwards. You can tell I'm going backwards in the on the roadmap, but Q4 2023, you've also got the establishment of the civics committee. Q4 2023, you've also got the open source and membership and community committees established. So all this happening in Q4 2023, this very quarter. Then you've got the Cardano ballot, which was also discussed in this Cardano 360 for October. Q4 2023, look at how soon this is. Interim constitution. Now we're getting very serious. First half of 2024, the Chang upgrade. This is a hard fork combinator event and involves bootstrapping of Voltaire. Q1 to Q4 2024. So this is basically all of next year. A consultation period for the Constitution. Woo, that's going to be some fights. People are going to want to fight over different issues. There's going to be a lot of contentious, controversial issues, and people are going to want to fight about it. Like everything, not just in Cardano, but in crypto in general. Everybody wants to fight about everything because we're all super passionate about this. And hey, there's money on the line. So you got two factors, each of which on their own make people fight about stuff, and here they're converging, both the money and something you're very ideologically passionate about. We got both those going on. So there's gonna be a lot of fighting. Just brace yourself for it. It's gonna be fine, like it always is. People will pretend like they hate each other, but it'll all work out in the end. Q4 2024, the big event, the Constitutional Convention. Then they'll have the actual vote on the Constitution, Q4 2024. That's a pretty big, quick timeline. This is a lot of things happening over the next 14 months now. We're at the end of October now, so we're kind of looking at like 14 months. I wouldn't be surprised if this bleeds into 2025, which is going to be super crazy because of the timing of the Bitcoin halvening, and what that normally does to the altcoin markets by, about 2025. So this is going to be a super crazy time because Cardano is going to be launching this on-chain, off-chain governance thing that nobody else has. And then meanwhile, the halvening event and what usually happens after that is going to be going on. It's going to be super crazy toward the end of 2024 and into 2025. That's going to be a very exciting time to be in Cardano. So let's get to the important part. What is voting actually going to be like? I mean, the whole thing with Voltaire and self governance is you actually have to self govern. And the way you do that is through voting. And we've talked about a lot about that in the past, but we haven't really looked at what the interface, what the experience is actually going to be like. And now we can see that. Right here, you have what they're calling the Gov tool, the Voltaire Gov tool. It's going to be a really friendly looking interface, just like this. You'll go in and connect your wallet just like you would with any other dApp in the Cardano ecosystem. And you can do all of these kinds of things. Use your voting power to delegate to a DREP, register as a DREP, view governance actions. So these are all the things we'll be doing in here. Obviously, the governance actions will be all the different things we've talked about in terms of SIP 1694. Do you want to, vote in a vote of no confidence, of the Constitutional Committee? Are you, angry at somebody? Do you want to propose something? All of these things, all the things we've talked about in the past, you'll be doing all of these things through this Gov tool interface where you connect your wallet and you can vote. You can become a DREP. You can delegate to DREPs. You can do all these things. So we are also looking at something on this page, which is going to be one of the most controversial things about Voltaire. And this controversy will never end because it's one of the biggest controversies in all of the theory of governance. So, but it definitely pops up more in crypto for a special reason. A lot of you already know what I'm talking about. And that's this little graphic up here, voting power. So what are we talking about there? What is voting power? Well, this is crypto. And one of the big things with crypto is that you don't want someone to just be able to buy, one Lovelace, one fraction of an ADA, distribute that over 100,000 wallets, and then have 100,000 votes. You've got to have some way to control that. We also like to be kind of permissionless. We don't want to KYC as voters. At least I don't. Some of you, I'm sure, would not mind. I don't want to KYC as a voter. I mean, who knows? Maybe someday there will be some compelling reason why we need to do that. But if I don't have to, if I can just vote permissionlessly without KYCing, then I'm more than happy to do that. So if we don't want people to divide their vote up into 100,000 wallets and we want it to be permissionless. We don't want a KYC. You're left with voting by the amount of your holdings, which people hate. People hate this because they say this is rule by the rich. I don't know that we have a good solution around this. There's going to be a lot of fighting over this. A lot of people are going to say this is just more of the same. This is the problem with the legacy systems. At least with the legacy systems, we had one human, one vote. There's going to be a lot. We've already had a lot of discussion of this just in crypto in general, in the theory of governance in general for hundreds of years in crypto since its inception, since people started talking about governance in crypto in general. So we're gonna have a lot of fighting over that. And that's just sort of like a factor in the form of governance. That's not even about the governance actions. But Cardano, we're not an unspicy ecosystem. We're a pretty spicy ecosystem. We kind of get after it and we get after each other because we have high standards. We hold ourselves to high standards because we're one of those crypto ecosystems that really believes in governance. We really believe in this level playing field for all of our fellow humans. So when it comes to the governance actions themselves, you're going to have a lot of very impassioned people pushing for different things. And we're all just going to have to get comfortable with disagreeing. There's going to be a lot of disagreements. There are people in the Cardano ecosystem who I love, who I think are amazing people, great people. And we might have deep differences in terms of the direction we think the Cardano ecosystem should go in. That's the way it is with life in general. If you have exactly the same preferences and desires and goals and thoughts and plans as another human being, what makes you two different human beings? If I felt exactly the same as my friends in the Cardano ecosystem, we would basically be the same human being. And we're not. And I'm glad we're not. I'm glad we're all individual humans and we all have our own individual thoughts. Because if we all thought the same, there wouldn't be a whole lot of innovation going on. You kind of have to have those conflicting viewpoints and perspectives to make progress, to move forward. If everybody thought the same, you wouldn't really have any progress. You'd already be at this consensus that never changes. We need the consensus to change and adapt with changing conditions and, to come up with better ideas based on the conflict between old ideas. This is required for innovation and progress and all those things we desire to have in our ecosystem. That's why we have to have the conflict. It's going to happen. We can do that civilly. We don't have to be terrible to each other. We don't have to be, acidic with each other. We can do this in a collegial, polite manner. We can be civil with each other and still disagree. That's not going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen sometimes, but not in all cases. It's going to get spicy. Everybody's just got to get comfortable with it. But the beautiful part is we will have that real governance thing going on. You don't have that in other ecosystems. Who makes all the decisions in Bitcoin? Nobody, because no decisions are made, because you won't be able to get the miners behind it. The miners won't be able to, they won't be willing to aim their mining rigs at any, significant change. You have some changes sneaking in here and there, occasionally, like we saw with forms of NFTs popping up in Bitcoin circuitously, but you don't see much change. You don't see them coming along and anyone really proposing any big changes because everybody lived through the block size wars and we saw what happened there. No change. That's the way it goes. Bitcoin isn't going to change. So you don't really see any movement in Bitcoin. In Ethereum, you've got a small handful of people making all the decisions. I'm just going to call it like it is. I have said in the past that I think the Fed's FOMC is more decentralized than Ethereum decision making because you've got people from the different Federal Reserve banks in different parts of the US at least, and they're all coming together and making a decision. And I think it actually might be more people than are actually making the decisions in Ethereum. That's their issue to figure out. In Cardano, we're going to have real governance. It's going to be the real deal with all the fights and all the hurt feelings, but most importantly, the actual governance, the actual self governance, us actually being a real a real ecosystem, a real community that makes its own decisions and moves forward. And as bloody and unpleasant as that's going to be at times, at least it's real freedom. It's real self governance. That's the direction we're going in, and almost nobody else is. I'm sure somebody's going to point out some, very small coin where they have, some kind of, extreme freedom and governance. But among the large cap crypto ecosystems, it's us. We're the only ones doing the real deal. And let me ask the question: how can you say you're decentralized if you're not doing this? If you're a big, large cap ecosystem and you're not going in this direction, you're not actually doing the on chain governance thing or even some form of off chain, widespread governance, self governance. If you're not doing this, how can you really call yourself decentralized? If you took a bunch of, sixth graders who had, taken some kind of, miniature class on government or politics or governance, whatever they teach you in sixth grade, even they, if you just sort of gave them an overview of a crypto ecosystem, the first thing they would say, if you were like, how do we make this decentralized? How do we get rid of the centralized actors controlling everything? The first thing these sixth graders would say would be, let everybody vote on stuff. That's like the first conclusion they would come to. How can you say you're decentralized if you're not going in the same direction as Cardano? And yet we're the only ones going there. It's going to be a real differentiator for our ecosystem. And I honestly feel like even just us attempting this, even us going in this direction, is not just going to be an attempt. We're actually doing this thing. But even just the attempt makes us the true fruition of sort of the crypto dream. It's like you're not fully realizing the dream of crypto unless you're doing this. It's going to be really hard for anybody else to say they're as decentralized as Cardano once we actually put Voltaire in action. And it looks like that's happening for all of us very, very soon. I hope you're still having a great week. I hope you're looking forward to a good rest of the week, and I'll talk to you very soon.